Some just do it for the cash, others do it for the passion. Is you working on your craft? Is you really about that action? Craft. Welcome.
Guys, 𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙁. Thank you for tuning into my channel as always. If you haven't, go hit subscribe below. It means a lot. I'm trying to build a channel that just gives you content about hip hop, whether it's my own music or how I feel about hip hop, and just educate on hip hop as a whole and lyricism. So if you haven't, please hit subscribe. Thank you to everybody who has hit subscribe. And today we're gonna dive into the levels of lyricism and what that means, because lyricism isn't always just one box. There are levels, I feel, and I kind of want to dive into those. Now, before I get to breaking down these 3 levels of lyricism that I've kind of come up with and placed emphasis on, before I get into that, I kind of want to emphasize that subject matter has no effect on if you're lyrical or on lyricism or any levels of lyricism. Subject matter doesn't matter. It's more about the delivery and the execution. You can talk about anything, and you can fit in any of these layers of lyricism that we're going to go over. The first level of lyricism that I want to talk about and that I've kind of grouped together is fundamental or foundational lyricism. And that kind of is built on basic metaphors, punchlines. So for those who don't know what punchlines are, those are the clever lines, which they can vary in degree of difficulty, but they're typically like the clever lines that the mainstream audience can understand, that kind of, they're called punchlines because they punch you and make people, you know, kind of, whoa, that was cool. Ending basic rhyme schemes with words that rhyme. So let's say like doing a simple rhyme scheme throughout a verse, but each line ends with just the last word that rhymes. The lines don't necessarily have to be cohesive, and by that I mean like from first line connects to second line, connects to third line, telling the story. It's kind of, it can be all over the place, but it's just a mix of like punchlines, metaphors, maybe you could throw some similes in there, but it's more so just showcasing like that you can use words, but not in a cohesive manner. The reason I call this level of lyricism fundamental or foundational is because typically when those who are starting out writing, or in the beginning years, or if you just don't write a lot and you stick to a certain style, foundational, fundamental is appropriate, because anybody who picks up a pen, if you work on it for a little bit, you're gonna have these foundational, fundamental verses and songs. And a lot of times, you know, maybe what you hear on the radio, not all of it, but I would say a lot of it is fundamental, foundational, and a lot of it is carried by the production, as opposed to the words holding their own weight. The second layer of lyricism that I've kind of identified and grouped is called elite lyricism, and I would say that metaphors that require kind of background knowledge or some outside context to understand. They're not so surface level. The use of similes, of course, it's a little more complex. The rhyme schemes are more difficult, and when I say rhyme schemes, that's kind of how the lines sound, right? Like rhyme schemes is it could be each line, like you go 2 lines rhyme and then 2 more lines rhyme with a different word, or you could go 4 lines that rhyme with the same word, or you could go a line that rhymes, then a line that doesn't, then a line that rhymes with the first line, and then the 4th line can rhyme with the second line. There's so many different rhyme schemes, but in elite lyricism, I think that the rhyme schemes vary and they're not predictable. So it's having that ability to have unpredictable rhyme schemes, and also rhyming multiple words in multiple lines. So It doesn't necessarily have to be just the last couple words. It could be the last half of a line and it rhymes. And not only does it rhyme, but the lines kind of connect to an overall theme. So it's not just I'm rhyming these lines because it sounds cool and then I'm gonna go to a completely different concept. It kind of ties together. So part of the elite lyricism level is taking these fundamental skills and then raising that level of storytelling to connect them all. I also think that elite lyricism in this level, the verses kind of elaborate on the hook. So it's not just that same surface level as the hook. It's kind of taking that hook to the next level. So building that story. And the hook is obviously the title, the name hook draws you in to the song. And that's the catchy part. But the verses are supposed to then elevate that story until you get to the next hook. And then elevate that story into the final hook. So you're going through this story that's raising all the way up until a climax point. The final level of lyricism is next level lyricism, and to be on this level, it takes hours and hours, and I don't mean like an hour, I mean like 10,000 plus hours. They say it takes 10,000 hours to become elite at what you do. So next level lyricism, kind of, I classify that as the ability to convincingly move from first person to second person, or from first person to third person, whether it's in the same verse or one verse is from one perspective, one is from another. So thinking outside of your own first person perspective, and the ability to cohesively bring those together to tell a story that's convincing. I also want to reiterate, as I did at the beginning, subject matter does not matter. It doesn't matter what you're talking about to be classified in this category. It's more about the delivery and being convincing. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You can talk about anything, and just having that ability to jump from points of view and getting out of that first person, which is the easiest to write in. I would also say seamlessly being able to switch from rhyme schemes, and we kind of touched on that in elite lyricism. But next level lyricism is basically, there's not a rhyme scheme that you can't complete or execute, and it kind of varies from song to song. Being able to switch your rhyme schemes up with the feel of the production, or just to be able to switch them up and without it seeming forced. So that takes hours and thousands of hours of writing to be able to do that. Also, rhyming entire sentences or larger phrases, I would classify in next level lyricism. We're moving on from 2-3 words that rhyme at the end of a sentence to maybe the first word of a sentence, a couple words in the middle, words at the end, and then go to the next line. And in those same sections of the sentence, you're rhyming words that not only rhyme just to rhyme, but they also keep the flow of the verse and the story going in a conceptual way, where you don't lose momentum of the verse just for the sake of that type of rhyme scheme and that type of placement of rhyming. A lot of times, I would say in the elite level, people have the ability, artists have the ability to rhyme in different parts of a line, multiple lines, or throughout a whole verse, but those lines lose that momentum of the theme or the story of the song for the sake of getting in those rhyming words. But at next level lyricism, I think that an artist has the ability to keep that momentum, keep that story going, and keep that theme going, even with rhyming. First word, some words in the middle, and some words at the end. The last distinction I think that separates the next level lyricism tier is being able to build suspense and ending verses with impactful lines and ending the verse with impactful words and lines. And that's not to say that the words have to be pulled from a dictionary and nobody knows. It's not about the words. It's more so the line needs to. I know when I was, all of my English and writing classes, and I took some creative writing classes in college, and just studying how to structure writing in general outside of rap. But the best writing, you have the intro, you have the plot, and you have the conclusion. And same goes for a verse. You come in and it's an intro, then you have the body of the verse, and then you want to end it with summing it up in a way that, if it's the first verse, you want to sum up the song to that point and then tie it into the hook. And if it's the second verse, or how many other verses, whatever the last verse is, if it's the last verse, that last impactful line needs to sum up the song that up to that point and then prepare you for the last hook. And if the song ends on a verse, then that last line is even more important, because you don't have that hook to be that last impression. That last line you say needs to be impactful. So I think at the next level lyricism tier, artists have the ability to always have finish their verses with impactful lines. Now, all of this isn't to say that any level is better than the other, that I prefer a level over another, because the more I've written, I've realized it's just up to the artist what they're trying to convey, because lyricism is an artist's expression of emotion through words, kind of like in an imaginative and beautiful way. So that's kind of subjective, as is art. And I just kind of wanted to make a distinction based on, to break lyricism into categories of detail, more so than saying someone is better that's at this tier. It's more so fundamental, foundational is less detailed than as you go up to the next level lyricism. It's more detailed and more hours of writing, and that's not to say one's better than the other. That's just kind of my conclusion on it. And I know some people are gonna probably react to this as saying, you're saying if you're foundational that you're garbage. But no, you can be foundational, and you can be purposely foundational. There's times when I've written songs that were purposely foundational, fundamental lyrically, because that fit the production and that fit the emotion, and that was the best way to portray the theme and topic of that song. But there's also times where, I've felt that I needed to go to a different level to convey something that I wanted to in more detail. But it's kind of a balance, and I will say that if you don't write a lot, you're not going to be at next level, and it'll be hard to get to elite level if you're not writing a lot and if you're not absorbing knowledge and reading. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to keep the content coming. I'm just going to keep content coming at you. Hip hop, lyricism, anything to do with the subject, check out this channel. Again, I'm O.D.D.I.T.Y. If this is your first time. If you haven't, I would appreciate if you hit subscribe and share the video, and I will see you on the next video. Appreciate you.